All right, everybody, and welcome. Happy Friday. Oh, it is our last episode of this week for Spilling the Anxiety. I hope that everybody is doing well. I'm not gonna lie, after that last episode, I needed to be honest, I still need a minute to just chill out, but I am feeling a little bit better. I had to get realistic about myself, about what my expectations were. Not expectations, but what realistically me doing this podcast and blogging looks like for me and my family financially. So I had to get out there and use my degree. And, I got a job, which is good. I just really hope to devote the same amount of time that I'm still doing to this podcast. So I will not fail you guys. I'm going to work on, pre-recording stuff. But until all of that is said and done, then we are going to continue and keep the ball rolling. So today's podcast is probably going to be a little bit short, where I want it to be, just because I feel like I have a topic that it is triggering. And not, at least I don't think in a negative way, but I feel like a lot of people will, women particularly, I hate to say it, but that there will be a conflicting point of view from a lot of my female viewers. I need everybody to know that I am not a woman-hating woman, just because I don't share the same opinion as maybe other women out there. Again, I've always said that my points of views are pretty antiquated, but I feel like this one is a mix of antiquated and feminism, so we'll see how it goes. Whew. So in short, because I'll explain it after our little break, in short, my topic for today is house husband / housewife roles versus, the spouse that goes out to work. So let's take a quick break so we can get settled in for this week's episode, and I will see you guys in a little bit. Stay tuned. All right, everybody, and we're back. Okay, so let me start off with a little preamble on what triggered this episode. So I've been really busy with what I've been doing. So when I get really busy like that, some people play music. I try to stay away from music because I feel like it's tied a lot to my emotions, and I don't want to come off as emotional all the time. I feel like when I've got a lot of stuff going on in my life and I play music, particularly the stuff that's on my playlist, it just hits a little bit too close to home, and I get to this point where instead of using that as fuel for my creative process, it kind of shuts me down a little bit, especially depending on how hard I'm going through whatever I'm going through. So what I do is I play TV shows in my background that I know I've already seen, or TV shows that don't require so much. Like, it's not Game of Thrones attentive, I put on stuff like Family Guy, sitcoms in the back, whatever, XYZ. So I started having Family Guy on the background a lot. Now, one thing that I really enjoy about Family Guy is its satirical nature. So it takes, for those of you that don't know what satire is, it takes actual social situations and political situations that we actually are going through in real life and puts it in a humorous light to bring attention to it. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of that like newsletter, The Onion, which is like they take situations that sound like they could be real, but they kind of exaggerate it to really, really accentuate what the problems are with this in our society. So that's why I like to watch Family Guy, because it really does make light of like racism, homophobia, a lot of issues that, abortion, stuff that's just really hard to talk about. So anybody could watch Family Guy and easily be offended by any of the things there. But one thing that I found interesting, it was in an episode that they pointed out where Peter loses his job. And so for those of you that don't really know what Family Guy is, Peter and Lois, they're this, middle-class white family, and Peter works, although in most episodes he doesn't. He supposedly has a job, and Lois stays home. She's a housewife. So they really, and they have 3 kids, 2 teenagers and an infant. So what's happening here is that Peter loses his job at the brewery. And so money is getting tight, and the kids are asking for stuff for school and they really can't get it. And then Lois is like, "You know what, Peter? I think it might be time for me to get a job." And so she goes out and she gets a job. The only job that she can get, or not the only job that she can get, but the job that she gets the most easily, that just pops up for her readily when she's looking, is I want to say is a phone sex operator. To be honest, the one I wrote down the idea for this episode, for this podcast, it was a while ago, but I'm pretty sure it was as a phone sex operator. So now she's making really good money as a phone sex operator, and Peter has turned into the house husband. Their roles have been switched now. She kind of, quote unquote, brings home the bacon, and he is at home doing the cooking, the cleaning, because she lets him know, if I go to work, that means you have to do the stuff that I do here all day, which is you got to cook, you got to clean, you got to take care of the children, etc. This is, for the most part, and I don't believe that it's because of assigned gender roles, not completely in part anyway. I think that it's just in a typical situation, it is a lot easier for men to get the jobs that the jobs that really pay out, the stuff like, damn, shoot, even being a truck driver, being, doing construction, laborious work. These are not things that women cannot do. I think it's more accessible to men. So I think that, and even doing little odd jobs here and there, working as a bouncer at a strip club, whatever, I think that it's a little more easily accessible for men. Women have a very nurturing nature. And I think that I don't want to call kids a hindrance, but I feel like most women, they take on that role in being nurturing for their children and all that other stuff, because it's just something that most of us are naturally good at. So I think it just works out that way, the men go off to work and women stay home, if there was a stay-at-home situation. Now, obviously, in a situation where a woman has, a law degree, or she's a doctor or anything like that, and her spouse talk about it, and the man stays home to rear the children, then I think that that's great. That's awesome. I just think that it's less common. It may be becoming more common, but as of right now, to my knowledge, it is not the most common thing ever. If anything, it is actually more common that you have a 2-salary household than there is where there's a stay-at-home parent. But for these purposes, I'm talking about being a stay-at-home parent. So Peter decides to become a house husband. He stays home and he takes care of the kids and all that other jazz while Lois goes off to work. Now, here's the problem with this. They follow the basic trope of, and without considering gender roles, that the person who goes off to work is usually very distant at home, not really interactive with the children, constantly tired, not playing a super active role in the relationship, I guess. Because and I can feel that, when you're when I'm working, even if I'm working from home, after I'm done working, I actually don't even want to talk to anybody. I just don't. I don't want to gossip with you. I don't want to, I just don't want to do anything. I've been dealing with people all day. What the hell I want to talk to you for? And then, depending on how laborious the work is, if you're actually out in the workforce, then I remember there were times where, especially because when I was working at my last job, like my last office job, there were just times where I was just so tired, and then I would have to come home and rear the children and do all this other stuff. And by the time it was over, it was just like, man, I really, really would like a moment to myself to just sit down and watch TV or fall asleep watching TV, or just eat something without somebody asking me for a piece. And then, my partner would initiate clicking with me. And for the sake of the relationship. It's not that I didn't want to. It's not like he forced himself on me or anything like that. It was just more like I was less enthusiastic about it because it's just like, oh my God, I'm tired. Like, I don't even want to do. And then, there's the whole, but you don't have to do anything. And it's like, but don't I? Because I have to sit here and do the moaning and the groaning and the gyrating. I'm not just gonna sit there like a pillow princess and let you do whatever, and while I just watch TV. Like, I do have to be engaged in the activity. So that's like, I sympathize with that. So she, when she gets home, she's like, oh, Peter, the house looks great, blah blah blah, whatever. But now Peter's in this place where he is seeking attention from Lois, which, if you watch the show, he never does. He could care less about this woman. He goes off, he hangs out with his friends, he goes off and he does all this other stuff, constantly on stupid adventures, but he very rarely is like, I crave the attention from my wife. But now that he is the house husband, he is craving attention from his wife. He's just like, oh, like, tell me about your day. Like, oh, and I know you're tired, but, I want you to touch me. I want you to blah, blah, XYZ. Or I don't want to be touched because, yeah, that's it. He doesn't want to be touched because she gets home and she's like throwing her stuff on the floor. And Peter's like, and while commenting on how clean the house is. And he's like, yeah, it is clean. And I would like for it to stay that way. And so he's like picking up after her. And then she's like, oh, it's just been such a tiring day. Like, let's have sex. Let's do something. He's just like, I really don't want to right now. Like, I kind of just wanted to talk. I wanted to chill. I really don't want to. And I know that sounds contradicting to what I said, because for me, after I get out of work, I really don't, like, I don't want to do anything. But the reason why I did click with my partner, after a shift at work or at the end of the night, is because I don't have it in me to do the other things that require effort in my relationship. After 3 kids, we do that pretty effortlessly. We click pretty effortlessly. Everything else, me paying attention to your day, all this other stuff, like, I really don't want to hear it. But everybody's different. So, and I also don't want to do anything, but that goes for when I've been a stay-at-home mom and when I've been employed. Both times I've just been so tired that it's like, man, I really just don't want interaction with people. So anyway, in this episode, the classic gender roles, I guess, where the way that they portray housewives and the way that they portray, I guess, the men who go off to work, this is they're making a joke out of this, because they're like, yeah, now that she's bringing home the bacon and Peter's the housewife, quote unquote, that's, now the roles are reversed and she's acting the way that Peter normally acts and he's acting the way that Lois normally acts. So that's what really triggered this, just for some background on the episode. It's a funny one if you want to catch it. And that would probably be more helpful if I knew the episode or, title or season, but I don't. So my thoughts on that. Now, I wonder if I'm really considered a stay-at-home mom when I had a job working from home for a year, because I was, I took my kids to school every morning. I picked them up in the afternoon and I made dinner. I cleaned my house. I did all that stuff and still went to work every day. But I don't really know if I'm considered a stay-at-home mom if I'm still working during that time. But regardless, I have had positions where I've worked from home and where I've also gone to an office for work and still maintained my house full time. Now, when I say maintain my house full time, I'm not going to lie to you guys. There have definitely been times where I let work get the best of me and my house wasn't in the best condition at all. And when I say, it's not like, the garbage was piling high or, whatever. But I'm talking about, like, I would do a load of laundry and sometimes I would live out of the bag of laundry until it was time to do laundry again. Um, there were certain things that, I only mopped and swept on the weekends because that would be when I had my downtime. I would have like a designated day for cleaning in my house. I mean, dishes were done daily and, garbage was taken out, but those were the daily tasks. Everything else that could wait for the whole week could. When I worked at home, then it was different. I could maintain a little bit more because I was working within my space, but it was still really, really exhausting. Now, I have had, I don't think I've ever been like, so I've been a stay at home mom, but I've never been a housewife. Now, for me, and this is just for me, I could never be a housewife. Never. I I don't know how some people do. I thrive off of making my own money. I don't want to, like, I feel like that gives somebody a certain sense of power. And when you are spending my hard-earned money and you ain't doing shit in return. Now, when I say doing shit in return, that's definitely subjective because it's like you could be, if I come home, dinner is made all the time. Groceries are always in the fridge. The kids are bathed, homework is done, basically everything, because staying at home is your job. Rearing the children is your job. Keeping the house clean is your job. So even if, and after a certain point, your kids go to school. So if during the day you don't have all of that on lock, it's kind of like, what the hell are you doing? So you're really just sitting at home doing what with my money? And I feel like doing that is a certain sense of power. Now, that doesn't mean that because you stay at home and because you're not going to work that you are not entitled to your time. Of course you are entitled to your time, to you time, to do what it is. You're allowed to sit at home and relax. And I've given you that opportunity by being the person who goes out and makes enough money for the both of us. There's nothing wrong with that. But that doesn't, not having to work shouldn't erase your ambitions. And even if you don't have any ambitions as far as what you want to do, you don't want to open up a business, you don't want to, do whatever it is, you don't want to work from home, that's fine. But we have agreed that I will go out to the world and I will earn money to bring home in order for you to keep our home presentable, keep our kids, maybe some people stay home because it's easier as far as childcare goes. Some people stay home because it's like, okay, well, maybe if we both go out to work, I don't trust both of us to keep this place up and running, and it makes no sense. We're gonna have to alternate responsibilities and both of us are gonna be tired as hell. Fine. But I could not handle the concept of just going out and working so I can come home and the household ain't straight, and on top of that, you ain't making any money. I personally could not do that, and I couldn't be a part of that. If I was a stay-at-home mom ever, then I would be the kind of stay-at-home mom that, all of my shit would be together. I would be doing PTA meetings. I would be, baking, learning new recipes, and I guess that's easier said than done because I've never done that. But for those that, that's why I'm saying I feel like this is going to be triggering for some people, because some people will be like, well, you have no idea how hard it is to stay at home. That's the only time that I have to myself because the rest of the time I'm with the kids and blah, 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 and so whatever. And it's like, that's okay. But as Lois experienced in the episode, you go out, if you're the person who goes out and goes to work and goes, does whatever it is, then you are the person who's dealing with other people, a countless amount of people, every day, doing the same task every day. So you're dealing with the kids for the same amount of time that I'm dealing with people at work. Because if the kids are gone at school all day, then generally I'm working that same time because you're home alone during that time. That means that I'm at work then. And when I get home, the kids are there. And when you pick up the kids, then that's when your shift starts. So it's really subjective, and this isn't encompassing every situation because there are some situations that are a lot different. And I'm subject to it. My situation isn't like that. I have my son with me 24/7. He does not go to daycare. I'm also currently, well, I just got a job today, but prior to this moment, I was maybe unemployed for about 2-3 months. So I'm with my son every day, and then I go pick up my children. For me, the only reprieve was if my father went to go pick up my children. Now that my son is a little bit older, he's doing better in the car. So he, goes out and with my dad, and that's when I have like my 1 hour to myself. And it's like, okay, great. What can I do? But instead of slacking, what I did was I took that opportunity. Those are the times that I used to record my podcasts. Those are the time that the time that I used to straighten up a little bit if I can, because my son isn't in my face. So I really don't get time for myself. And then my kids come home, and I'm sitting there and I'm with my kids, blah blah whatever. I'm never not with one of my kids. Now the job that I just accepted is working with kids, so I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna go to work with kids all day, come home, then be with my own kids. I'm probably gonna go certifiably insane, but it's okay. This is what I was built for. It's fine. So let's take a quick break, and then I'll elaborate a little bit more on all of that. I'll let you guys get your anger out a little bit, and then we will continue. So stay tuned. All right, y'all, I'm back. So, house husband, housewife roles. That's it's pretty difficult to tackle here. So, I mean, I'm not saying that being a stay-at-home mom or a housewife is a bad thing. It's not. I just think that there are a different set of expectations. I think that you're more, and it's easy to get lost in the fact that you're the person who's stuck at home all day with your kids while your partner is off, making money, and they're politicking and interacting with other adults, and it's all great until you're like, yo, what the hell? Like, I'm stuck with children all day. That's not even fair. But this is what you signed up for. And even if this isn't something that you want to do anymore, then I think that it's time for you to sit down with your partner and figure out, like, okay, this plan isn't working for me anymore. I cannot stay home with our children all day, every day anymore, because you get to go out and you get to go be with people while I'm sitting here stuck talking to kids all day, or I don't have any friends, anything. So I think that that's when your situation needs a reevaluation, and that's perfectly fine. But if you agree to be a stay-at-home parent, I think that part of that is like, you also need to consider the struggles that I'm going through, going outside in public and having to, deal with people that I don't even like all day, that I have to tolerate. And then to come home and it's just like, nothing is done. Everything is still kind of in shambles. So I think that that's a situation, a stay-at-home parent versus a go work from home parent. I mean, shoot, I do both, there hasn't been a time in the past. I don't think there's been a time in God knows how many years where I just stayed home with my children and did nothing. Like, I was constantly looking for work. I was trying to do things for work. I couldn't handle, like, even when me and my partner were good and everything was okay, there wasn't a time where it was like I just didn't want you in my pockets. I earn my money. So that way, and I spend it on our kids the way that I'm supposed to, but I don't feel comfortable asking him to provide money for me, because if you're the one that's giving me money, then I feel it's like asking a bank for a business loan. It's like, okay, the bank is going to want to see your business plan and see what the hell you're planning on doing with that money. Or when you're applying for a scholarship, they want to see what you're doing with that money down to the T. This is why I couldn't be a stay-at-home parent, because you are not going to question me what I'm spending money on. You're just not, because I make money so I can spend money on whatever the hell I want to spend money on. And as long as all of our bills are paid for, then I don't understand why you're even asking me. I don't subscribe to the notion that people that are in committed relationships should put everything in like joint accounts. We can have a joint account in which we both put in money for the bills that we need, but I'm still going to have my own shit. So when I want to go on Amazon and drop $50 on a freaking facial steamer, if I want to, you're not going to ask me about it. And you also won't be upset about it because that's the money that I made, not you. All of my money that is necessary for bills, my half of the shit is in the pot. If we have the money for everything it is that we need, then whatever I spend my money on after that isn't your business. Provided that I'm not, I'm not like doing drugs or like, something that's going to put us in danger. But if I want to go and shop on Amazon and spend every last cent of my money that after all the bills have been paid, you're not going to ask me about that. That's just how I feel about it. Which is why I couldn't handle being a housewife. Because if I have to get an allowance, for those of y'all that can't see my face, it's really stank right now because I don't even talking about it is just like, ew, no, I'm going to make my own money to spend that. But that goes both ways. After my partner put in all the money that I was requiring him to, hey, this is our, the kids' half of the tuition. This is the payment plan. This is what I need for XYZ. So-and-so needs shoes. After all of that was said and done, whatever he spent his money on, whether I agreed or didn't agree, it wasn't my business. Because he makes his money. He earns his money. He gives me what it is that I need in order to keep our household running. So after that, why is whatever he spends any of my business? It's not. Provided he's not doing something stupid with the money, like going and blowing it on strip clubs or, buying a prostitute. I don't know, whatever it is that you want to call it. After that, it's not my business because I don't want that same kind of energy over here. If I want to go out and buy myself a new bra and panties, if I want to go buy myself a new game for my Nintendo Switch, I will tell you about it in conversation because we're sharing a life together. But I'm not asking you for permission. What? That's what? That is a joke. Okay? And that's not, even if you share a life with somebody, you're entitled to some modicum of privacy. But that's not, I kind of strayed from what the topic here is about. But I think that that's an important concept because I feel like a lot of people don't consider what it means to be the person who works. That means that everything is on me. That means that if I take a sick day, whatever money I didn't make that day is now coming out of the pot. We can't spend it. We might have trouble with our bills, and it's not really the kind of thing that I could just be like, oh shit, can you pick up the slack this week? You can't because you're not working at home. And I think that it's one of those, the grass is always greener on the other side kind of things. Like I said, I've played both positions. I've stayed home and worked, and I've also gone out and worked. Was I a lot more tired after I came home from an office? Yes, because the routine is different. Now I have to shower the day off. Wait, that's not to say that when I stayed at home working, I didn't shower. But I mean, like, it was the first thing on my list because I'm in contact with a bunch of people. And now I'm bringing in all of their germs into my house. So the first thing that needs to happen is I need to take off all of my clothes. I need to go ahead and take a shower, wash all those other people's germs away, and then keep going. When I worked at home, it was a matter of, okay, I can get up and start my day, take a shower. I can work in my pajamas. There isn't an urgency for me to wash off everybody else's germs. And then, I remember this is so bad, especially after I had my last kid, so for those of you that listen to previous podcast episodes, my first day of work was supposed to be January 25th. That was the day that I gave birth to my son. So I asked my job if I could start a day later because I had an unexpected medical emergency, which is true. I gave birth 2 weeks early. I wasn't expecting it. And I started the next day. So tired as hell with a newborn, I was sitting there and ready for orientation at 10 a.m. And after everything, it just seemed like I wasn't getting sleep when the baby sleeps. I wasn't doing that shit. And my kids, I still had to get them up and get them ready for school. And then during the night, I would be getting up and doing feedings. And then during the day, I just had a baby like 48 hours ago, and I still had to pay attention to the orientation and learn this new job and do all of that other shit. I was exhausted. Okay? I was so tired. I wasn't fucking with nobody. Okay? Now at the time, my partner was unemployed, but he still had other stuff that he was doing. Still had other stuff that he needed to do. So sometimes I would be home alone and I would be, doing whatever. And because my son was breastfeeding, I couldn't exactly toss him off to my dad. So I think that it was very hard. And then when my partner did come home, he just, this was the closest I got to like the housewife feeling, I guess. He went out and he was doing what he needed to do. Sometimes he'd be working odd jobs or whatever it is. And he'd come home and it's like, man, all I want to do is bury myself in my girlfriend and just enjoy, her. I just want to feel it. I just want to release all the tension of the day by clicking with her. But by that point, I was so fucking tired of hearing people talk, and I was so tired of all this other shit and dealing with the kids and all that other stuff that I was just like, man, I don't even want to. Like, this is just, I feel like at every moment, the second in order for us to do something, that meant that my son had to be sleeping and all the kids had to be busy and out of my face, which means that most chances are this was happening at night or midday if the kids were at school. And for me, y'all know that newborn stage, you're picking up that child every 45 minutes, if that. At that stage, I was just like, oh my God, fine. I finally got him to sleep. If I could manage to slither out from under him, I'll get 45 minutes by myself. And I also, if I coordinate it and take my lunch at this time, I could probably sleep. And if it was nighttime, then I'm like, oh man, I could finally eat. I could finally take a shower, all that other stuff. And it was just like, do I really want to waste the 20 to 45 minutes that I have? Not waste. That's a bad, way to reference it. Do I really want to spend this little bit of time that I have to myself clicking with my partner when that can wait? Like that's just, can it wait for a time that I'm more tired? But for him, it was all about releasing the energy of the day. For me, it was just like, yo, I'm so fucking tired of being in this house in these four walls and doing all this other shit that I just don't want to. So I think that, that was a very interesting dynamic that I saw, that once their roles switched, Peter and Lois, their personalities and how they handled each other in their relationship also switched. And I think that it's not a bad thing that if you're a stay-at-home parent, for you to consider what the working parent is going through, because it definitely it might even strengthen your relationship. Because and a lot of people are like, well, you have no idea what they go through staying home all day with the kids. So the person who goes out and work, why don't you come home and do something nice for them? That's like, okay, but are you considering what that person went through or is going through every day when they go off to work? Why don't you do something nice for them too? And I think it has to be a balance. It has to be equal. With that being said, that is Friday's episode of Spilling the Anxiety. And on Monday, I will have something very interesting for everybody. Do I know what it is yet? Absolutely not. But I promise you it'll be interesting, and I haven't failed you guys yet. I mean, maybe once or twice. There's quite a few episodes out there, and maybe some are more boring than others. But it is consistent. So, everybody, I want you guys to have a great weekend. I don't know what happened to my mouth there for a second. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I know I did. It was a little bit, I felt kind of like walking in a minefield, trying not to blow up and say the wrong shit. But I think I navigated pretty well. Although I'm sure some people here will let me know that I didn't. So until next time, which is Monday, have yourselves a wonderful weekend. Take care.